Hey everyone, I am Nathaniel Rufflejants, and this is Prime News. So our first story today, the lead story, is that Kirby Star Allies review embargo has lifted today, and now we get an idea of at least what the general media thinks about Kirby Star Allies. And at the time of recording, there is a Metacritic score of 73 for Kirby. Now, to be specific, that is based on 25 critic reviews. The highest reviews come from Destructoid and EGM, who gave it a 9 out of 10. The lowest are Metro Game Central and God is Geek, who gave it a 40 and 45 out of 100, respectively. Other notable outlets, Game Informer gave it a 6.3 out of 10, Nintendo Life gave it a 7 out of 10, GameSpot gave it an 8 out of 10, and IGN gave it an 8.3 out of 10. As for my thoughts, well, I haven't played the game fully yet, just the demo, so I can't tell you, but it definitely sounds like it's a Kirby game, right? These are the kind of scores Kirby games get. They are just okay. They're really good for some people. They're just blah for others. It's that kind of series that is just for fun. I've talked about this before. Kirby games are just about having fun, not about being necessarily difficult, not about being even insanely creative. It's just about having a good time, relaxing, not necessarily super long. Whether or not it's worth $60 to you is up to you, of course. But maybe we have a story later on where I might be able to help you decide if Kirby's for you, but more on that later. Our second story for today comes from Japan. We have a new media create report for last week. And Switch is doing all right for itself. It sold 45,084 units, which is actually up exactly 1 unit over last week, or the week prior, I should say. PlayStation 4 is in second place with combined sales of PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro of 28,363 units. 3DS combined sales are in the 3 slot at 10,248, with Xbox sales under 200 total units. Switch does own the 3, 4, 5, and 6 spots on the sales charts, with Splatoon 2 at 22,162, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 17,329, Breath of the Wild at 11,611, and Odyssey at 11,043 units. The top 3DS game is Ultra Sun and Moon, which sold 8.6K. PlayStation 4 actually owns the top 2 software sales spots on the list this week because there was a new release called Hukoku ga Gotoku, which moved 123,116 units, while Monster Hunter World is sitting at number 2, selling an astonishing 25,382 units, which is really, really good considering how far out it is out from release. It looks like it's going to easily move north of 2 million units on the PlayStation 4. So, yeah, that's really, really good. What's interesting about this is obviously that the Switch has been consistent this year. I think that's the word to throw out there for Switch. Despite the lack of major releases and big titles, the Switch is just continually selling very, very well. Splatoon 2 is continuing to sell like hotcakes. It's been a very, very good year so far for Switch, despite the fact that PlayStation 4 in Japan was really leading the way because of Monster Hunter World. Well, now things are dying down a little bit. Switch is still maintaining the momentum it had heading into the year. And I can't wait to see what happens when another big game. Can you imagine what sales are going to be like when Pokemon hits or anything like that? Smash Bros. Maybe they get out a new Yokai Watch or something. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to see where sales go from here. But hey, Nintendo is staying very, very consistent in Japan, although 3DS numbers are down year over year. But I guess that's to be expected. We are towards the end of the life of the 3DS, whether it ends this year, next year, 2020, whenever the 3DS is finally out of production. It's going to be because the sales continue to dwindle. We'll see if that is the case once more 3DS games release this year. Then the next story is kind of an update to a story from yesterday, and that has to do with the Switch's 5.0.0 update. We talked about it yesterday and some of the cool things that it added and how some people are a little bit disappointed, but new information is always coming out about the update because there's a lot of things usually behind the scenes in the update that Nintendo doesn't tell us about that's even more interesting than what Nintendo tells us about. And we've learned a couple things. One, that more headsets are now being supported on the platform. We're talking full headsets. That means microphone and headphones. However, the microphone is really only usable in Splatoon 2 in one little portion of the game in a local multiplayer session. But it could be something that expands, and it could be a sign that Nintendo is considering moving voice chat over to locally be on the Switch, like it is on every other platform in the world when they launch their stuff in September, and maybe they just keep the phone app as an option. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff there. But that's not really the really interesting stuff. It's really the nitty-gritty details about the security of the Switch improving. Now, what's not mentioned is some extremely technical details on what Nintendo is doing to secure the Switch against hackers. I honestly don't fully grasp everything that is being reported on and looked at, because it's extremely technical and down to hardware differences and different techniques in the software to move things around and make it a lot harder to hack in general and get homebrew to run. But the fine folks over at GBA Temp have an ongoing thread in their homebrew section for Switch, talking about the changes into the Switch hacking scene. And right now, it seems like 5.0.0 is going to be extremely difficult to hack. I'm not saying impossible. Nothing's impossible, but extremely difficult. But here's kind of sort of what I understand from what I read, just in the most layman terms I can put it. The update all but confirms there's going to be a new SoC, which is a system on a chip. That means that NVIDIA and Nintendo are working together to alter the Tegra X1 chip and make it much harder for people to hardware hack at a hardware level, because the latest hack, that's not at the software level, involves hacking the actual hardware of Switch, and there's nothing Nintendo can release that can prevent you from loading things when you hack the hardware. While changing the SoC and changing it multiple times, it makes it a lot more difficult to just have this universal hardware hack. And it's actually something very common. Microsoft has done this in the past. Sony's done this in the past. It is an extremely common way to combat hardware hacking. So this isn't surprising, I should say. But the fact that we are noticing that there's going to be new SoC in the software, because the software is referenced in it, is extremely interesting. So yeah, that's kind of like the big thing I can explain. Beyond that, they have made a lot of they've really locked down the system. So what Nintendo is doing is they're trying to make it a closed system. Now, this is one reason that they also were not region-free in the past, but they found a way to stay region-free and still try to lock down that system and just make it really, really hard. As I said, it gets really technical. I don't want to dive too deep into the details. I believe SpawnWave actually made a video about it yesterday, and even when he was diving deep into the details and explaining things, a lot of the people over at GBA Temp said that he got a lot of his explanation wrong. So I don't want to dive that deep into something I don't understand. If you're interested in knowing more, I'm going to link to the thread. You can go read about it and check it out and see what you decipher out of the post there. All I know is 5.0.0 made Switch extremely secure and very, very hard to hack and get homebrew running and all that stuff. And considering that you always need the latest firmware to play the latest games, it's going to be very interesting to watch the hacking community fight back against the current restrictions in place. Now, I was talking about SpawnWave for a moment, and I want to talk about him one more time, because something happened to his Switch that I really don't want to happen to anyone. He has been using the Nyko Switch dock. And I reported last year, heading into the holidays, that nobody should buy the Nyko dock. I believe it was $30 at the time. And I still see it on store shelves at Walmart, even today. And the thing is, there were a lot of people reporting the dock was bricking their system. And what it would do is it would basically damage the USB-C port. Some people were saying that, it's a software level thing. It's injecting like this code into your system and destroying it. But that really wasn't what happening. It would damage the USB-C port, which would make it not be able to properly seed and be read by the official dock. And even worse than that, make it so you can't charge your Switch. And when you get damaged hardware like that, yes, Nintendo will replace stuff under warranty, although sometimes not under the Nyko dock warranty. And then Nyko has also said that they would replace your Switch. But see, here's the thing. When Nyko's like, we'll replace your Switch if our dock damages it, that sounds all great and dandy, but what about your save files? And again, this is not necessarily a Nyko issue as much as that is a Nintendo issue. right now you cannot back up your save files on Switch. On Wii U and 3DS, you could back it up to SD cards, you could back it up to a thumb drive, and you could do that from day one, whereas on Switch, you can't even do that. And now everything's moving to cloud backups, and that doesn't exist on Switch either. So right now, if anything happens to your Switch and you have to get a new one or a replacement model, you're probably crap out of luck for getting your game saves back. Now, my hope is because Spawnwave is really, really good at tearing down systems, that if he gets a new Switch, he's able to transfer the memory module, which appears to be a separate chip, into the new system and then get all his saves. But there's no guarantee that's going to work. There's no guarantee the designs have stayed the same with newer models. At this point, there's no guarantee that would even be an option. So I'm really sad this happened to a fellow YouTuber, especially one that I admire so much for the work that he does. But this could have happened to anyone. It has happened to people that I know in real life and online. I personally know 6 people that have had the Nyko dock over the past 4 months destroy their Switch. It is not a fun experience. I do not wish it on anyone. So please, if you are still considering looking for extra dock options, go buy the dongles if you want something that's more portable. Either buy a second official dock, which I know they're overpriced, or get a dongle. I personally use a dongle. I have not heard of a single report of the dongle versions of the dock damaging Switch ports. I have not had any issue with it, and I've been using the dongle for almost 8 months. So just I personally just want to remind people, get away from the Nyko dock. Even if they revise it, at this point, when you're talking about it damaging a Switch, and the thing is, it took a while for this to happen to Spawnwave. He's been using it for months. So it's not something that's like you put it in once and suddenly it breaks your Switch, although it might. It could take time. But yeah, if you have a Nyko dock, just stop using it. Please, I don't want to hear any horror stories of people losing their game save data over this. Please. I'm literally pleading with you guys. Just don't buy it. The last story we're going to talk about is actually really, really interesting to me because Kirby Star Allies has reportedly broken street date. Or I should say, retailers have broken street date for Kirby Star Allies. Now, I have heard everything from GameStop and Walmart to Target and Kmart and Shopko and mom and pop shops. Like, everyone's breaking street date is essentially what I've heard. But just because you hear it and you see a few screenshots doesn't mean that it's really, really widespread. So I decided to test the theory myself. I went to my local GameStop first because if I'm going to buy the game today, I'm going to want my bonus reward points I get with it at GameStop since there's no reward program at my local Walmart. And sure enough, they were not selling it yet. Remember, Kirby Star Allies releases 2 days from now on the 16th officially. Like, if you have a digital pre-order, guess what? You can't play it until the 16th. And so then I moseyed on over to Walmart, which is across the street. And sure enough, folks, I own Kirby Star Allies. I don't think I've ever been happier to hold a Kirby game in my hand on a video. Because I'm holding, this, to me, having this game in my hand right now, well, even though the general public can get their hands on it pretty easily, it seems, it's not supposed to come out for 2 days. So this is my first early game on Switch. Like, almost kind of like a review copy, except I paid $60. Yeah. But needless to say, we will be streaming Kirby Star Allies tonight on our channel. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't get too mad about it. I know when street dates are broken, they sometimes get mad about it, but the street date breaking on this is so widespread. It first happened in China like a few days ago, and then it's been happening in Europe, and now it's happening in the US. It's so widespread that Nintendo can't stop it at this point. So, yeah. If you really want to play Kirby today and you don't want to wait for your pre-orders or whatever the case may be, then go ahead and just stop at your local Walmart. It was as simple as walking in and seeing it on the shelf with all the other Switch games and saying, hey, I'd like to get a game out of the case. Can I get Kirby Star Allies? And that's it. Scans in the system, works, pay for it, walk out the door. Just like buying any other Switch game that's already released. Kind of crazy to me. It's the first street date broken game I have purchased maybe ever. I'm thinking back on other street dates that have been broken. I don't recall if I've ever purchased a street date broken game before successfully. I've heard stories, but then I go to my local retailers and they were not breaking street date. But yeah, Kirby Star Allies, folks, it's right here. It's in my hands, still sealed. We will be cracking that seal and playing it for our first time tonight on live stream for you guys. Maybe Eric will come play it with me because it's multiplayer, or he won't, and I'll play it by myself. But cool. And last but not least, this is just kind of a wrap-up. We have registered for E3 now. We had to get gamer passes because we did not qualify as a media outlet. Both our YouTube channel is too small, and we didn't have enough traffic at our website. We're going to fix the traffic situation at the website because we have a large enough Facebook following to do that for next year. But there's nothing we can do about it for this year. So it is what it is. $250 a ticket, so we've dropped $500 already on our E3 trip just to get into E3. We still have a lot now, flights and hotels, and now it sounds like we're not going to be able to use the official E3 shuttle. So now we're going to have to rent a car. So that's an extra expense I wasn't planning for, and the extra expenses always seem to add up on trips to E3. But it is what it is. Thank you guys so much for your support on getting us to E3. We're still accepting donations to help us at E3. We're not going to set any more goals. If you would like to donate, we have a link down in the description to help us out with these extra expenses we weren't planning for. But it is what it is, folks. I appreciate everything you guys have done for us so far. And you know what, folks? I am Nathaniel Ruffledance from Nintendo Prime. And if you like this video, you know what to do. And if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button. Subscribe for more content. And you know what? I'm going to catch you guys tonight playing Kirby Star Allies live, baby. Peace.